Quickly, I want to show you how I took this picture from this to this using captureone and Photoshop. Hopefully we can quickly run through the whole thing. So let's begin. So what I do is, typically I don't use captureone to prep my raw files. Most times I use camera raw in Photoshop, but this time I decided to try new things. I've actually used captureone at some point before, so I decided to revisit this time because I learned a couple new things about it. Sorry. So I mostly start with white balance. So in this case, my white balance was at 6432, and I loved the, let's just say, the tone it was given, and I mean the mood was flash, so I just left it like that. Then I came to the exposure. I did not touch the main exposure slider. I just touched the contrast and the saturation, just adjusted them ever so slightly. And then high dynamic range, this one is better than the exposure slider because it's able to do just slight incremental changes in the picture. So I just basically just messed around the highlights, the shadows, and then I took down the blacks so that it gets a little bit more punchy vibe. I think I proceeded to the levels and I brought in the blacks, then I raised the mids just a little bit, just to still give it a little bit more contrast and definition. I don't think I did anything with the tone curve. I just left it like that. Then I came to the color editor. In the color editor, I worked on the greens. Like you can see, I selected the greens here. I sort of adjusted and blended the color to a more preferable tone because it was looking really deep green at first, and I did not really want that vibe. I also worked on the skin tone, as you might be able to see in the adjustment layer here. So I worked on the skin tone, and this is where I pulled and harmonized the skin tone with that of the railings, as you can see here, and some of the colors in the background, just to give it sort of like a uniform look and just blend it in a little bit. And this is one of the reasons why I really love captureone, right? It's this skin tone edit that it has. And I know right now Adobe is trying to play catch up with Lightroom and Camera Raw, but it's just not the same thing. Also, I did not use the color balance in this layer. Let's see if I did it for the background. I did not use it for the image entirely. I think the last thing I did before I took it to Photoshop was vignetting. So I did a little bit of vignetting backwards, so it gave it sort of like black edges, So I did black vignetting on it, and then I took it to Photoshop this way. So I edited with Photoshop 2023. So now I'm going to go to Photoshop and show you guys all of the layers that I had open and everything that I did to make it come to this in Photoshop. So let's just fire Photoshop up and just let me show you guys what I did in Photoshop. Alright, so now it has opened up in Photoshop and we're in Photoshop. So now this is the finished product in Photoshop, but I'm just going to turn off all of the layers so that we can work from bottom up. Just 1 second, sorry. By the way, please, if you know any way to turn off all of these layers at once and faster, I'm all ears. Please drop it in the comment section or something. Thank you. All right, so this was the background layer after I brought it from captureone into Photoshop, and this is what it looked like in the background layer. And I started with duplicating the background layer, and this is like my base layer. This is where I sort of did a little bit of prepping. So if we zoom in here, okay, why is this thing not working? Sorry, 1 minute. All right, I think it should work now. So if we zoom in here, you can see that let's turn it off, let's turn it back on. Can you see? So if we turn it on and off here, you can see some of the blemishes on our face, they're gone. So I used a little bit of the patch tool here just to take a little bit so that I preserved some of the texture. So it was mostly a little bit of preparation with this layer, and then I went on to create a basic frequency separation layer. It was initially divided, the tones and the colors and the textures in different layers. So in this layer, I was able to take out there was something here, let me show you. I was able to take out this particular thing that was disturbing the picture here, so I took it out with this layer. I also did a little bit more integration with like removing some of the blemishes on her face, a little bit of taking care of her hair too. and then I merged that, and then I went ahead and created a micro dodge and bone layer. This one was to help me with imperfections on the skin. If I turn it off, okay, it's on right now, let me turn it off. If you look around the hands, hair, and the face, you'll probably be able to see some of the adjustments that we made. So I did that, and then I stamped it so that I can create another frequency separation layer. And this is where I work on the tones, basically in the low layer. So I sort of blended the skin together just to give it an harmonious look, you know. So I sort of, if I turn it off there, you can see that it did not look quite as put together as after I was done. So worked on the face, worked on the hands, you know. And then after I was done with that, I went on to, well, I created a global dodge and burn layer here. If I turn it off, you can see the difference it makes. So worked on the hair, worked on the highlights on the face and the arm and the shadows too. So that's all I did with the global dodge and burn layer. And then after I was done, I just discovered that around this side of our hand, or is this a back? I'm not sure, but this part of our body was sort of not matching the color of the rest of our body, and this part of our forearm too. So I decided to create an even skin tone layer. I got this from the pack, the preset pack, the frequency, the portrait retouching pack that I got from Prince Mason. You can check that out, it actually helps a lot. So I worked on this part. I sort of blended, I took colors from other parts of our body that were really nice, I blended it, and it looks much more, you know, decent. And then when I was done with that, I moved on to, you know, this is a group though, so I created 3 layers here to enable me to do specific things. Like, let me show you. So I darkened the eyebrows, like you can see right now, darken the eyebrows, darken the eyelashes just to give it a little bit more pronunciation, and then I made a high shadow pop just a little bit, and then I applied the same action to her lips to just give it that punch. Now you might be wondering that you're not really seeing the effect of these layers, especially with YouTube compression and everything, but the truth is that the whole trick as regards photo retouching is to not do too much. Now if you start doing things where people can notice it from a mile away, then you're probably doing too much already. So after that, I created a light contrast. This one was to give it a little bit more vibrance, a little bit more punch, make it more contrasty. But instantly I recognized that it was already looking too bright, and I don't want my final image to look this bright. So, and I also wanted to work on the skin tone, so I just went ahead and I created the rich tones layer. I also got this from the Prince Mason retouching pack. So let's turn it on. So as soon as I turned it on, I just fell in love with the colors it gave to the skin and like the whole moody vibe that was going on. I absolutely loved it, so I just left it like that. Then the next thing I did was, you know, I added a little bit of skin texture. Now if you come around this part of the arm, hopefully you can see it with YouTube compression going on, but around this part of the arm was losing some details, so I just tried to paint that in a little bit. I did not do too much, like I said, don't want to be doing too much. And after I was done with the skin textures, I also added some skin texture on the face too. Then I just created a stamp visible layer again just to stamp everything in, and voila, we have the final picture, and I am absolutely loving this result. So you guys, thank you very much for sticking through to this part. Now if you want me to do more videos like this, or you want me to do a video where I go into detail, or I retouch a picture from the scratch and I just show you my workflow and process from maybe captureone to Photoshop, or just Photoshop, or whichever way, please leave it down in the comments and I'll be sure to get around to making a video like that. If you have not subscribed already, please try to subscribe, because I'm going to be dropping more videos like this, by the way, just, you know, to try and help somebody out there. Thank you guys for sticking around this long. Catch you in the next video. Peace.